Hey guys, our last video we left off with talking about elements on the periodic table. If you haven't watched that, I highly recommend go check it out because it is really important to build on that now that we're moving into the topic of compounds. One thing we don't really concentrate on in 6th grade, however, I do need to talk about it with you in order to understand a compound, is the topic of a molecule. So a molecule is when you have two or more atoms of one type of element bonded together. For example, you can kind of see here on this slide, it does say O2. So let me get my little, let's see here. See if this little pen thing works. So as you can see here in this example, O2, this is a molecule because you can see that it's telling you there's two atoms, two oxygen atoms in that molecule. This big thing is something we're going to talk about in a second. This, many of you know H2O. You've heard it in commercials. You know it's water. You've heard it in movies. But H2O, the H right here goes with the 2, okay? The O has an imaginary 1 behind it. It's just implied. We don't write it because it looks silly if we write a 1 behind it. But it's telling you there's two atoms of hydrogen in this compound. So this is this H2 is a molecule. And then the O has one atom. And that O is not a molecule because it needs to have two or more. So it's just this is an element, but this is also a molecule because there's two atoms of that hydrogen, and this is just an element. If you were to draw this out in a picture, it would look like this up top, okay? Let me see if this actually erases. I wish I could push, maybe I can push a button, but just let me erase it, and then we'll move on to talking about compounds. But yeah, that's really it. That's a molecule. Pretty basic. Yeah. Alrighty. So, oh wait, I'm still on the eraser. Let me pause. Hold on. Alright. Now it won't let me move. Okay, sorry I had a little pause in there. I was trying to figure out the pen cursor thing. But anyways, we had left off with talking about the H2O and the molecule and everything. But when you put this whole thing together, this is a compound. This is one compound. So a compound is made up of different elements. So let's kind of fast forward in here to the topic of compounds. I'm going to read this definition, and in your interactive notebook, you'll go ahead and fill in more so this side and some of the notes in here. I had already gone through, H2O has 1 and 2. So make sure you kind of fill this in, what is a compound? We're going to go over right now. And it is going to be a pure substance formed when one or more elements have chemically combined through a chemical reaction to form a new substance. So it's all these chemical reactions that happen between two or more elements to make a whole new substance. For example, in the H2O, up here, just so you have a visual. In the H2O, the elements in here are hydrogen and oxygen. Okay, there are two elements chemically bonded together. I'll show you a trick in a second how you know it's two or more elements. But another example here is the elements chlorine and you can go and look on the periodic table and find it if you don't believe me, but Cl is chlorine and Na is sodium. When those two elements combine, they're going to make something, a whole new substance, and that's going to be called sodium chloride. It's represented here by NaCl. So let me change the color. Let's see. So NaCl, this is a chemical formula. This is something known as a chemical formula. The name for it is sodium chloride. We can break this down because we know Na is one element and Cl is another element. So we have, there's no numbers behind Na, there's no numbers behind Cl, so we know it's one atom of Na and one atom of Cl. So it's sodium chloride is the chemical formula, and it's NaCl. An easy way to essentially pinpoint elements in a chemical formula, because you can have really long formulas too, but an easy way to pinpoint some elements in a formula is know that, remember the prior video I had talked about how an element is going to be one letter, one capital letter, or it's going to be two letters, a capital letter followed by a lowercase. So here's an element, and then, oh, we ran into a new capital letter, and this is a lowercase l, so Cl. So we have two different elements here. So yeah, that's that. I'm going to erase here, and we can kind of, move on. So anywho, counting elements in a molecule, just like I talked about, count the number of different capital letters or element symbols in the compound. So the Na, we have one element, but in this formula here, we have one element. This is an element, and then this is an element. Okay? How do we know? Because capital, lowercase, that's one element, and then we ran into another capital. So we know that's a separate element because it's a new capital letter. There's a 2 behind the Na, so that tells us there's 2 atoms of Na, and there's no number behind the O, so that just represents one atom of O. Okay? You don't really need to know the atom part. I just wanted to tell you because I know a lot of kids asked in the past, and just so it makes sense. What you need to know is that the capital and the lowercase represent an element, and then when you run into a new capital in a chemical formula, that is another element, okay? Alrighty. Okay, so moving on. Here's a little example thing. We already did H2O. We already did NaCl. So you should be able to do those 2 ones. So now let's jump to this one here. Let's do green. So we have C6H12O6. How many different elements are in this compound? Let's not worry about the molecules anymore. Don't care about that. How many different elements are in this compound? Well, how many capital letters do we have? We have 1, 2, 3. So we have 3 different elements. Now, the names of the elements, well, if you go and find it on the periodic table, you don't need to know it by heart, but the C is going to be carbon, the H is going to be hydrogen, and the O is going to be oxygen. So that's the 3 you'd write there. All right, let's look at this one. We have NaOH. How many capital letters do you see here? We have 1, 2, 3. Okay, so we have, again, 3 different elements because we ran into the capital letters. The name of the elements, well, you go find them on the periodic table and then write down the names here. Okay? I might bookmark that, not bookmark, but I might add it to your agenda just to have it if you need it, the periodic table website that I showed you in the previous video, so you have it. But what you need to make sure what you do is go on your digital notebook and complete these, because you never know when we might be able to use this on a test and everything, and you want to have this filled in because it could help you a lot. I hope this video helps you with compounds, and if you have questions, let me know.